I'm Andrew Parton, part of the Command Post cohort with my partner in crime who's actually here tonight, Craig Oglesby, and my partner in crime for this podcast, Jeremy, who's a part of the Startup Anthology. And we're here tonight at the Military Connected Monthly Mentorship Meetup.
It's got like 20 words.
20 words.
It's a mouthful.
MCM3. Like, can we do that? Can I say that right now? We're just going to make that up right now. MCM3. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to thank our sponsors tonight. Live EMF, Capital Factory, JP Morgan Chase, Combined Arms, Texas Veterans Network, and then and tonight, for those here in Austin, this man needs no introduction. For everyone out in the virtual space, we have Joseph Kopser, pillar here in the Austin startup community and the veteran community. West Point alum, I'm sorry to say. 20-year veteran of the Army, though, and finished up his tour here at UT Austin as a professor of military science. So ended up sticking around, founder of RideScout, and then a serial entrepreneur kind of after that. So it's going to be a really good conversation. I'm excited about it. Joseph, why don't you start us off here by telling us kind of your journey before Jeremy hits you with some questions.
Absolutely. So first of all, am I on? Okay, I'm on here. So they have this really cool link that this is live, not just live here in this room, but this is live on YouTube.
Live on
YouTube and across different platforms. So if you're able to share, how do we share this with them that they can share with their networks?
Talk to Craig.
Yeah, talk to Craig. We gave him the link to it, and I shared on LinkedIn. So if you come to
LinkedIn,
my website, or
the other way to do it, if you're on X or Twitter, or formerly known as Twitter, now known as X, soon to be non-X. Who knows what the name is? I just tweeted it. I think X'd it. Just now. So if you're on that platform, feel free to share it with friends, because the most important thing of any of these conversations is for us to share it. I'm a big believer, to answer your question of how I got to now, because that was what you asked me. I was paying attention, even though I was sharing the live stream, is that people will be what they can see. People will be what they can see, and especially in the military and veteran community, it's more important than perhaps, I'm sure there's other groups similar, but we are especially called, if that's the right word, to make sure that we are role modeling for each other, because we're such a small part of the U.S. population. And not only are we, as the military connected community, a small portion of the community, we're also literally and figuratively siloed and separated many times, oftentimes by a fence or a security guard or an ID card or a badge from the rest of society. So on a night like tonight, again, thanks to all the sponsors and everybody who put this together, and we have a chance to tell our story, and others might have a chance to hear it and go, oh, wait a minute, I think I might be able to do that. The only way we're going to reach more folks is if you share. So hopefully, hi Patty, hopefully you are able to share that link, and if not, when you get back to wherever you're going to end up tonight, it'll be posted, it'll be evergreen, right?
Yeah.
It'll on
be
your
evergreen.
podcast.
It'll be on Startup Anthology podcast, Command Post Cohort podcast, and then forever on the Capital Factory live stream. 2
podcasts and a live stream on Capital Factory. Perfect. So I'll just summarize my journey real quick. With my product placement of fellow veteran entrepreneurs, Austin Beer Works, Michael McGovern, great beer here in the Austin community. There's also several others that we'll talk about tonight. But my journey is similar and not similar to many of you all. It's similar in the sense that, look, I didn't know what I want to be when I was a kid, other than the fact I want to be an astronaut. I want to go into space. So I figured out early on I got to know computers, I got to know math, and I got into all that. And luckily, as a nerd, I got good enough at that they let me into West Point. Then at West Point, I really went full nerd, went into aerospace engineering. But then when I graduated, I thought, but I love leadership and I love people even more than crunching numbers all day. I still love numbers, but I love working in teams more. So that led me into the cavalry and a fabulous 20 years in the Army. 20 years in the Army, and I loved it. But every time I got a boss who figured out that I could walk and chew gum at the same time, AKA I could work on a computer, I kept getting pulled up into the headquarters.
Wow.
Which was a great rinse and repeat for what would later serve me well in life, which is I'd have command time, I'd have leadership and troop time, and then I'd have headquarters time. And if you've ever served in a headquarters, you realize really fast how hard it is what you're doing. Because I know we're live, but
Politics?
But so we have a simpler term even in the junior army, which is those assholes up at squad. Remember?
Yeah.
And then at squad, they're like, those jerks at platoon have no idea what they're doing. And they're like, those idiots at company. And every level up think that the headquarters above them doesn't know what they're doing until you're in those headquarters, and then you realize, holy crap, this stuff is hard.
It's actually hard.
It's really hard. It takes leadership, and it takes strategy, and it takes a lot of things that people don't appreciate enough. So then my Army career, as you mentioned, was here at the University of Texas running the Army ROTC almost 15 years ago. But what I don't talk about enough is right before that, I was in the office of the Army Chief of Staff, a 4-star general that runs the whole Army. And I got to be a special assistant for him. And that's when I saw how hard the problems really are for the big Army. And when I moved to Austin, moved to Texas again, I'd moved here in 94, in and out through the Army. But when I moved here, I was like, wait, Texas, specifically even Central Texas, has a lot of the ingredients that can fix many of the problems, help improve many of the problems that the Army had. So I had a front row seat. And when I mean front row seat, I mean literally like in this room, almost in this chair. And by the way, thanks for giving me the little kid chair. You guys get to be higher up and look tall.
It's the chair of honor.
Yeah, well, chair of honor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched Zoom when I was a little kid. But anyway, that's actually the show Zoom. But what that gave me was a front row seat to watch this innovation community come. That just fed the beast of my entrepreneurial spirit. The first company here is with my brother from another mother, Craig Cummings. We built a company called RideScout to help you get around cities better. It's just been a lot of fun. So I'll be quiet now because I want to get into your questions.
Well, that's where I wanted to start is with RideScout, because you were still in the Army when you founded RideScout. You're in the Army, a professor,
right,
and a founder all at the same time. What was that like?
Well, it was hard. But at the end of the day, if you're going to start a company, start trying to fix a problem that means a lot to you. If you're working on something you believe in and that you're passionate about, it's hard, but it's not really work. And what I mean by this is simple. So I, along with many in this room, spent a couple of trips in Iraq, Afghanistan for others, but for me it was Iraq. And I had just gotten back from a tour. I'd come back in Christmas of 2007. By 2008, I got pulled up into another headquarters. And by 2009, I was getting pulled into the Pentagon. So I was already separated from my kids once, separated from my kids again. 6 months, almost 6 months, I lived in DC as a geographical bachelor waiting for the school year to finish before my kids came. What I missed were my daughters. And then I was introduced to traffic in Washington, DC. And if you've ever had the opportunity to live or work or travel in Washington, D.C., don't get on the roads between 6 and 9 in the morning.
Or Woodrow Wilson Bridge.
Or the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. Or 4 to 6 in the evenings. Just don't. If not, just give it up. So what I wanted, not was to build a company. What I wanted was not to make money. What I wanted was more time at the breakfast room table with my daughters.
That makes sense.
Full stop. Because I'd sit there, my kids were elementary, middle, and high school at the time. And I would have to stare at the clock in the breakfast room, the little back patio we had, and wait till I got to like 8:17, 8:18, 8:19, because I knew I had to leave by like 8:20 if I was going to make it to the Pentagon on time by 9, because that's generally when the 23 bus, A or C, depending on which one. If you lived on Glebe Road in North Arlington, you know what I'm talking about. And I'd race to that bus. Some days I'd catch it, some days I'd miss it, but the days that I missed it, I'd be standing there in uniform, 5 miles from the Pentagon. I'd watch Pentagon stickers on cars pass right by me, and I said, you've got to be kidding me. There's got to be a way to signal to these people, clearly the uniform's not enough, that I'm going to the same place they are. So why can't I build an app that will find people going my way? And so nights and weekends, I'd do my Army job, come home at night from the Pentagon, and start trying to it wasn't Google so much back then. It was Ask Jeeves.
Oh yeah.
Am I dating myself?
Yeah.
Ask Jeeves.
And I'd be sitting there trying to figure out how transportation works, how systems work. Because again, I'm an aerospace engineer, but I'm a little rusty. So nights and weekends is how we started RideScout, built it. Took forever to do, took 2-3 years. A lot of people, a lot of smart folks, but slowly over time. But to your audience and for those interested in entrepreneurship and startups, to your point, the Startup Anthology, is I didn't set out to build a company. I set out to fix a problem.
Gotcha.
And if you use that as your North Star, maybe you could turn it into a company. If you're just trying to build the best left-handed football bat the world has ever had, that's a hobby.
Yeah, okay.
I think, unless there's a great demand for left-handed football bats out here in the audience, I don't know. But it's what a lot of people have a hard time distinguishing between is a hobby and a problem. And for me, the problem was spending more time with my daughters and less time in traffic and missing the bus. And that was the origin story of RideScout.
Okay. Well, also while you're doing that, you came here to Austin. You were a professor of what was it?
Military science. I ran the ROTC.
And you were still in the Army, and then you also did RideScout, but you said you didn't have much business knowledge at the time, and so you went to Dr. Butler.
Yeah, Dr. Johnny Butler. If anybody's had a chance to meet Dr. Johnny Butler, I'll look in the camera and thank him again. Dr. Johnny Butler. So here's what happened. So I had this idea while I was still at the Pentagon, but I didn't really think it could become a company until, again, my now was co-founder, Craig Cummings, overheard what I was talking about building. And he said, wait a minute, that's just not a problem you can use to fix your own problem. We can turn that into a company. And I said, what the hell do I know about building a company? I'm in the Army. And so he said, when you get to Austin, because I was moving, it was my going away party, when you get down there, find somebody that can help you understand how to build a company. I'll help from a distance. He was in DC. So what do you do as any cavalry scout? I just went in search of someone to help me fix my problem. So I went to the business school at the University of Texas, looked up the directory, found Dr. Johnny Butler, who was not only a professor of entrepreneurship and business, but he was a Vietnam veteran. Again, trying to find those like communities, trying to find my tribe. And I explained to him, I was like, look, I got this idea for a company. I don't know if it'll work. I don't speak business, never went to an MBA program, but I think we're onto something. And he said, so you want to audit my class? And I said, oh no, I'm not even going to read the textbooks. I'm just going to literally sit in the back of your class with my laptop, and I'm going to listen to you all talk about business. And when I don't know what something is, by then I was going to Google. I'd go to Google and research the terms and figure out what it was. And then before I knew it, I realized, wait a minute. Business is not different than the military, other than from the perspective of leadership, which you focus on. The concept of leadership is universal. What's different, and what I want hopefully all of the viewers and listeners, everybody here tonight to remember is, it's just the vocabulary. It's just the language. It's just how you frame the discussion. Because at the end of the day, whether you're trying to charge and take the hill, you're trying to convince people to do something they wouldn't normally do, like get out of a safe foxhole and charge up that hill. And in business, you're asking people to open up that wallet, take out their money, and do something they haven't yet done before. And in many ways, leadership is sales. And I don't want people to take it out of context and say leadership sales. But what I mean is, leadership is about getting somebody to do something you wouldn't already do on their own. And in business, so much of sales is convincing people, inspiring people, creating trust. Those terms all probably sound familiar with leadership, are very similar in sales and in business. And that's the hardest thing I think a lot of vets have, leaving the military, jumping in going, oh man, I don't think I can do business. Like if you've led more than one person for more than one field problem, for more than one day in your military career, you're ready for business.
Yeah, that's definitely true, because being in the military and then coming to work at a startup here, it was very, very similar. In the cohort, the team, the like, these were my people, right? Not in the corporate world, but in this like small, intimate working group.
Yeah,
and so
you found your tribe.
I found it again.
Yeah.
So the other thing we talked about before was, it was balancing the military and your entrepreneurship while you were setting up RideScout. And like, you were waking up stupid early. I mean, you're
Stupid
the Army.
early.
We're military.
Yeah.
We wake up
I mean,
early.
we got alarm clocks in the Army that are bad, but stupid early, that's entrepreneurship combined with the Army.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, we kind of alluded to this before, but so I went to my boss when I got here to Austin. I was, again, still in the Army, and I went to 5th Brigade Headquarters, Army ROTC, and I said, hey, look, boss, nice to meet you, but I got this idea, and so nights and weekends, I'm going to be working on it. So can you give me whatever clearance or memo I need to sign or whatever that says I'm building a business on the side? It won't conflict, but I'm going to burn, and I did, every last day of leave I had, and I had a lot built up after a lot of time in the military. I burned it all to the ground. In fact, just as an aside, when I retired out at 20 years from Fort Hood, and I was there with the Master Sergeant, I was doing all the paperwork on my second to last day ever in the Army, final out. He's looking at it, he's looking at me, he's looking at it, he's looking at me. He's like, I think there's a mistake. And I was like, oh shit, this is the last thing that I wanted to hear. And he goes, sir, it says here you have 1 day of terminal leave. Yeah. And I said, that's right. And he goes, 1 day? I said, well, yeah, I burned all of it in preparation for what I was building. And I explained RideScout, and he goes, I get it. That's a good call. He goes, and by the way, I've been doing this job for, 10 plus years. You're the first person ever to walk through this door with 1 day of, retirement leave.
Yeah, I bet so. 'Cause everyone I know has at least 30 days or more of leave to take.
But to go back to your point, so the stupid early part is I had to separate my military life from my entrepreneurship. So I'd wake at 5 a.m., I had all my, Army trained, ready, had all my PT gear ready to go by the door. I was shaved and ready in like 4 minutes, and I'd spend the next 26 minutes on email, my company email, looking at what had happened the day before, the night before that I'd missed, and then poof, be at PT by 6 a.m. here on campus going at it.
That's crazy. And that led, because you're doing your emails and in balancing that, you talked about your I think it was like informal networking that you were doing as you were trying to build the business. The 1 beer at a time, I think you called it.
1 beer at a time. Yeah. So we have, like all good podcasters, they just kind of had a little prep time with me, just kind of let me know how their shows work, and I got a chance to listen to them. And we told this story about how I did it. One of my favorite stories, which is, so by day I'm in uniform, PT starting at 6 in the morning, go through all day, and at the very end of the day, there's this bar on campus near our building called the Carillion. No, Gabriel's. Well, the Carillion's the restaurant, Gabriel's is the bar at the AT&T Center. And what I would do is, as I would meet people, entrepreneurs here in this town, I'd say, my name is Joseph, I'm an Army guy, and I'm trying to figure out how to build a company. I hear you build companies, I hear you're in business. Would you meet me for a beer? And they would. But here's the cool part, or the hard part, whatever you want to look at. So I'd be in uniform at 4:30, 5:30, 6, whatever time I get off, and I'd run downstairs as fast as I could, go out to my car, grab my civilian clothes, go right back into the building, find the first floor bathroom, go into a stall, hang the hook, do my Superman routine as fast as I could, changing, and then have my boots, pulling off my socks, whatever, putting on business attire, which is nothing more than literally this: boots, blue jeans, and a baseball cap. I've always worn a hat. And then I'd go back out to my car, hang up my uniform in the back, and then boom, shoot across to the bar at Gabriel's, and then have a conversation. Take a heck ton of notes, and then get everybody's recommendations, and then follow up the next person. Anyway, I say that long story because we were talking about it in the green room before. So tonight, because we were coming here, I on purpose went to Gabriel's and had not just 1 beer. I started with a Pearl Stout, but then I told you I'd come back to this. Then I had an electric jellyfish in honor of Pint House, which is Ned Lavelle, who's another great military veteran entrepreneur. So I had those 2 beers in their honor, reflecting on the fact that 14 years ago, the RideScout story and really our journey began at that bar. So that's how it began, 1 beer at a time.
Full circle.
Full circle.
Yeah, full circle.
That's way better than 1,000 cups of coffee.
1,000 cups. Here's the crazy part. I didn't even drink coffee. 20 years in the Army, never learned to drink coffee. I don't know.
What do you want to take over now with the leadership portions?
Yeah.
I'll give you the microphone.
Thank you so much. Now I have the microphone. Ha ha ha. Oh, so one thing I did forget to mention, though, those of you who don't know, Joseph here is a published author. A book that I found really pretty interesting in preparation for this, and it led me to a lot of questions.
Cool.
I'll only give you two. But so in this book, Catalyst, you presented 4 factors to identify catalysts, which is scope, magnitude, timing, and maturity. So how did you come to that kind of framework?
Yeah, well, all the credit for this book goes to my co-author, Brett Boyd, who is business partner of mine, great friend for 10 plus years, now the CEO of a fabulous company called Sustainment.com. So if there are people in the world that have 800-pound brains that think big, that is Brett. If there are people that just talk a lot till they maybe say one nugget of information out of 1,000, that'd be me. So I just talk a lot. But to your point on these 4 factors of what takes a catalyst, I won't go into all 4 of them in super detail. People can check out the book. But what we're really getting at, though, is to understand what is really going to change the world and what is just a cool new toy. And we give numerous examples in the book. Probably, some of the best examples is the story of Kodak. You've heard this story before. Yeah. Kodak literally invented film in the way we know it today. They invented all the chemical processing.
Right.
They developed technologies to be able to take images and make them black and white. And then later somebody said, oh, we're going to make them color. And then someone said, oh, we're going to make them digitized. And they all went, what?
No one wants that.
No one wants that.
No one wants that.
And yet, ironically, Kodak invented digital film, digital picture technology, but the original team, who were so innovative when it was black and white, and so instrumental when it went to color, they got, call it what you want, comfortable, or they got stuck in their ways, whatever you want to call it. That by the time it got to groundbreaking, revolutionary, catalyst changing, that's the name of the book, catalyst changing technologies, they missed it because they were no longer on that cutting edge. So those 4 factors you talk about is a way to take your strategy and look at all 4 elements and figure out, is this going to be impactful? Will this go cross sector? Will this have not necessarily global change, but is it when we call it in the book, a step function change in how things work? And it's that step function change. When we invented the light bulb, there were 1,000 people that invented the light bulb. People think Thomas Edison invented it. He did not. What Thomas Edison invented was a step function change because he took the technologies of a lot of other people, probably didn't attribute where he should have, but he was able to make a light bulb that lasted for hours and hours and days on end, which was a step function technology change. And that's what Catalyst talks about. And the reason why in the book, and thank you for bringing it up, that we think it's important is too many companies are in their lane and they're not paying attention to the catalyst-like effects left and right of them. They're gonna knock them off their tilt.
Well, so I guess that leads into the next question really, which is, so how do we, as entrepreneurs, right, we're kind of geared in that mindset anyway. How do we guard against that in the long run, right? And use this to help identify those things and sell to those people that are going to need this, right? How do we convince people that, hey, if we take part of your light bulb and part of your light bulb and put this together, everybody's going to need this new thing?
Yeah. Well, so from the context of leadership, which is where I think many of your viewers and listeners come from with your podcast, what I would say is that the hardest job that a leader has in a company, or especially in a startup, is trying to convince the team that what you're working on is truly a catalyst or is going to be different like nothing before them. Because if you're just going to replicate what somebody has already done, it's really hard to break out and do something different.
Right.
So to your point though, your question is, how do you protect yourself? One of the things you do to protect yourself is to create a moat around you that nobody else can quite do. You have to create a moat, and a moat can come in a lot of different ways. In fact, I was talking to a young entrepreneur today, right at Gabriel's, one beer at a time, before coming over here, and I'll get back to, remind me to talk about that in a minute, 15 minutes with him. But he has this really great idea for a cool new leasing program. It's called Big Lease. Check it out. And what they're trying to do is make it easier for people to sign leases on college campuses where the churn is literally by design. Every semester, there are 40, 50,000 people getting new apartments. That's hard to do. But what I asked him to do is to push to find the moat that he's going to create. Because in an AI, digital native, AI native world that we live in now, you can build companies with no-code tools. Like I'm nerding out at night. So if you go by my house and the light in the center middle of the house is on, from like
coding.
8 to 9 to 10, 11, that's me coding, trying to figure out how to take all these tools and stitch them together. That if you don't build a moat, anybody can take your process, watch it and study it for about a week and be like, I can do that with an AI agent. And that's really hard. Now that's the bad side. On the good side,
here we go.
If you got an idea, and if you can just discipline yourself nights and weekends to, outside of your day job, but nights and weekends to study all of these new AI agents and these no-code solutions. I'm not getting paid by them, but my favorite is N8N November 8 November.io. And there's this guy, Nate Herk, Herk. This guy's amazing. He does these tutorials and he just gives out all these templates he's building, because that's the good and the bad of no-code solutions and building these new companies. If you're digital first, and we got a whole article about this on our Gray Line website if you go there. If you're digital first and AI native, you don't even need a whole army of developers behind you. Now you will need smart people who know how to design, and you will need a few people that can code, but you're not going to need anywhere near the number of people that companies like we needed 15 years ago.
Right. Okay. Second question. In the book, again, you said leaders have a threefold challenge. So one is to identify the transformation, calibrate the correct response, and then implement the strategy inherent in that response.
Right.
So can you unpack those three things a little bit for me?
So or perhaps differently than unpacking them, I'll tell another story.
I love it.
Because people are going to remember stories, they're going to remember the impactful change of those three elements. By the way, thank you for reading the book. But here's an example of all three of those coming together and doing it wrong. So Xerox. Everybody's heard of Xerox. They make paper copy machines, right? Okay, sure. Xerox, I think it was Rochester, New York, but they were headquartered in New York. And they're making copy machines, mimeographic machines. They're a paper company. And then one of their young engineers, figuring out all these different ways that these copy machines can do cool things, he's like, I think just as we're copying information from a piece of paper through these digits, through these, cathode ray tubes, and then sticking on that other piece of paper, I wonder if we can build a device using these things called computers that they got, and we build a personal computer. And so sure enough, Xerox tried to build it, but it got to be too hard. Couldn't do it. And then finally the CEO, remember talking about the vision and the transformational leadership, the CEO goes, holy cow, these engineers might be onto something. So they sent them, he said, I'm going to do a special mission. Kind of like with Army Futures Command, how the Pentagon sent Army Futures Command here to Army to get them outside the Beltway.
Yep.
The people at Xerox said, we're going to send you way out west to this place called Palo Alto.
Right.
And I want you to make this thing,
never
I want you to make the Palo Alto Research Center. And Xerox called it PARC, P-A-C-R, I was told there'd be no spelling. P-A-R-C.
You brought on the spelling.
I know.
Yeah.
Sabotage myself. So they build the PARC Center. And that attracts every smart person in the region. And there's a huge defense innovation scene already out there. People don't talk about it enough. NASA Ames Research Center and the whole deal. But they started to find people who said, wait a minute, this idea of this magical box that could sit on my desk, it could take that information there, put it through digits, and then it comes out over there and personalize it, you're onto something. So the CEO and all these people got super excited. They built a little thing called a keyboard. They built a little thing called a display, which, by the way, if you're really a computer nerd in history, go back and look at the monitor for the first computer. Anybody here in the audience know what was neat about that monitor? it was portrait, not landscape. Do you know why? Because a piece of paper is portrait. They made their monitor look like a piece of paper. You got that for free. So anyway, so they take this box, this personal computer, all the way out to their board meeting. I think it was in Florida. And a wonderful story told by Walter Isaacson in the book, The Innovators, you got to check out, tells this story. And so you can just imagine, big U-shaped table in this big conference room, all these executives, a bunch of old white dudes, all sitting around this table in the late 60s, early 70s, I guess. And out comes this little engineer, like wheeling this little cart. We can hear the wheel squeaking, right? He's got this personal computer, first one of its kind ever in the world. And the group of board of directors look at it and go, you want us to invest in what? And, the CEO, he's all excited. He's transformational leadership, he hopes. And he's got this computer sitting there. And they give a demonstration, and they have, by the way, which Steve Jobs stole the idea of, they have a mouse, they have a clicker. And when it was all done, the presentation was done, one of the old farts sitting on the board looked at it and goes, why would I want a computer on my desk when I have a perfectly good secretary in the front room and she'll do all the typing for me? And that is how Xerox missed the opportunity of one of the biggest step changes, step changes, catalyst changes in modern history, because they were not able to bring together all three of those transformational forces that you allude to.
Okay, so we're going to have to jump. I got 100 more questions for you, but I'll limit it to one more.
Yeah, we got people in this room we got to meet, so it's going to be great.
So tell me about Leading to Win coming up in September.
Thank you for asking. So Leading to Win it's in its third year. It's a conference here in Central Texas, but people from across the country will be invited to it. It is, well, hello, Lauren, how are you? It is going to be on 12 September. We chose that date on purpose because obviously after September 11th, it's a way to commemorate service to country. And this year's Leading to Win theme is Bridging the Gap. Because even though our previous conferences were fantastic, this year we want to take it to a new level. And Bridging the Gap is going to seek out to do a couple of things. Number one, it's going to bridge the gap between the military and veteran community with our civilian counterparts. And one of the best ways we're going to do it, fingers crossed, I don't want to jinx anything going on at 3 Corps in Fort Cavazos, Fort Hood, but it looks like we're going to have several combat vehicles, 6+ vehicles, a bunch of helicopters, Chinook, Blackhawk, Apache, because we're going to literally put them in the parking lot, maybe at Dell Diamond. I mean, I'm just going to say it and make that momentum build.
There we go.
Make the momentum build so that the American public, so that the great American public can come out and see soldiers and see this equipment. And then simultaneously, inside of Dell Diamond, in their conference room center and all throughout their facilities, we're going to not only have a military and veteran audience of hopefully 300+ people, the biggest we've ever done, I mean, that Central Texas has ever done. And we're going to bridge the gap between other problems that we see. Number one, my father-in-law, Vietnam-era helicopter pilot, badass. But that generation, many of them are VFW and American Legion members, and they're loyal and they're active, have not done anything, not all, many of them have not done anything yet with Team Red, White, and Blue, and Team Rubicon, and the Travis Manion Foundation, and so many Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. So we're going to get them all in the room in a workshop. Not panels, not speakers. We're going to get them in a room with a facilitator and a whiteboard and a big old giant magic marker, and we're going to say, how do we bridge the gap between these communities? Another great one that I'm looking forward to for Leading to Win on 12 September, hopefully out at Dell Diamond, is going to be a workshop with all of the amazing groups that focus on helping veterans transition from the military into their first job. Federal government has sources and resources, state has them, private sector has them, nonprofits have them. We have so many groups helping that problem, but we hope to get them all in one room at the same time, on a whiteboard, in the room, meet each other and say, how do we do better? Because there's still work to be done. We still have so many things. And that's just 2 of the 9 workshops that I kind of mentioned including, like I say, the outdoor display of the military vehicles. The night before, there's an Old Dominion concert here at Moody. There's 3 Moody's. The concert arena that Moody is. What do we call that? Moody Center. Thank you. So it'll be at Moody Center, not Moody Amphitheater. Moody Center, Old Dominion. Their proceeds go to benefit the Travis Mandian Foundation. The American Legion Post 76, right down here on Lady Bird Lake, is having a huge reception out on their front lawn. It's going to be gorgeous on September 11th, that Thursday evening. We got the Dell Diamond Field, the Round Rock Express plays that night, Friday night. Texas football on Saturday, and then Sunday morning is the 9/11 Memorial Run at Camp Mabry. Huge weekend. Put it on your calendars now. It'll be fun.
Yeah, let's get it started.
There you go.
Outstanding.
Woohoo!